And we are live. What's up,
I'm getting out
everybody?
of
How's everyone doing? Happy Sunday. It is Sunday night. I forgot what day it was. I am in fact losing track of the days, just like everyone else is. Let me just move this. I'm trying to figure out how to use Zoom properly. Can everyone hear? Actually, can we start with? Can everyone say just like some words? Say your name real quick, real loud, just to make sure everyone can hear everybody. Make sure the levels are good. Terrence, you mind saying something?
Yo, what's up? I'm just saying stuff to test some volume right now.
Can y'all hear? Can y'all hear Terrence? Doug, can you say something?
You hear me?
what's good, guys?
Candace,
Hi guys.
Michael,
What's good? Check 1 2.
Kwame.
Hey yo, what's happening?
All right, let us know how the sound is. What's up, everybody? What's up, iPhone Fan 5? Good to see you. Great during lockdown time. I agree. We can all come together, have a good time. What's up, Adam? You like the new intro? Yeah, I spent a little bit of time. I broke down and I decided to learn a little bit about Twitch, and I found out about all these themes and stuff. So we got a little bit of production value. It'll get better. What's up, 92 till infinity? Welcome to the channel. Thank you for the follow. What's up, Afro Coder? What's up, F Momo? What's up, the Breadman Show? Can I get a Discord link? Exclamation point Discord will give you the Discord link. Cool. What's up, Block 7? This is not, I'm at my house. Yes, I am in fact at my house. We are practicing the social distancing because we want to, but also because we got so much flack for not following it. Me and Terrence got a lot of heat for that. So hopefully neither one of us is sick. I'm feeling pretty good right now.
I feel good.
What's up, Horded? Good to see you. All right. 1 second. I want to see if I can get my picture up here. What's up, Yum Yum? Thank you for the sub. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the family. Good to have you. 1 sec. Let me see. Someone who's a pro at Zoom. Tell me, please tell me. That's not a command. That is a question. How do I get? So I can't stream my video both to OBS or to Twitch and to this at the same time, and to the Zoom at the same time, which I wouldn't want to do, but I do want to fill that gap there. I can't figure out how to put my picture there or something there. If I can't, it's not a big deal, but I really want to get it set. Let me see. I know you can do it because I have my picture set on like my work one. Do I just add a virtual background, and then if there's nobody there, let's see. That's what. Will that work?
You have your video stopped on Zoom, correct?
Yeah, because I can't. It won't let me start it because it's my camera's already being used.
Gotcha. Yeah, so it's basically like what I get when I stop my video. I get my what do I want to say? The image that's associated with my G Suite account.
That you know what it is? That's what it is. That's how I got my work one, because it's associated with my G Suite.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're gonna have to. That's really frustrating. It's not frustrating. It just looks. I wish I could like hide self view. There we go. Now you guys can see me in the corner. Now you can see our panel. I'm the moderator. There we go. Thank you.
Yeah, that looks great.
Yes, it was like 16 touches for T-Bell. So last time Block 7 was when we were not social distancing. Terrence kept touching his face as we weren't supposed to, and Block 7 was happily tallying that for us.
You were like 7 times.
You have zero self-discipline, none at all.
16. Can you even hear me?
Yeah, yeah, we can hear you.
No way, bro. All right. Come for my neck already. We just started. Anyway.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Adam, I could have turned it off in OBS and I could have been up there in the panel, but then we would have had a blank box sound on the side. But it's okay. This is a little bit better. We really do want to highlight our friends here on the panel. Thank you so much for joining us, first off. Really appreciate it. What I've learned about this process is, one, because I lost track of the days, all the hectic stuff with coronavirus. Just to let everyone know, I let a lot of people know about this on short notice. I let people know about this a while ago. We were supposed to meet up in person, and we had a whole crew that was supposed to be doing this on a Sunday and again on a Wednesday, because we're doing one for the Python Bootcamp as well, but it is a general engineering panel. But everyone kind of came together for me, so I really appreciate it. we might have a ton of people on Wednesday though. Like everyone was like, yeah, I can no longer do Sunday, but I can do Wednesday. So we might have a lot more people on Wednesday as a part of the panel. Just that's the way things pan out. But I appreciate everyone for being here. And so I want to say thank you. But the first thing we're going to do is just so everyone is familiar with everyone who's on board. We're just going to do some intros, just give people, your name, anything you want to know about you, your job position, if you want them to know, anything you're working on, just whatever you want to know, want people to know about you, you can let them know now. We're not going to get into kind of, don't get into your long history yet. We're going to talk about kind of each of our paths, but just high level, just software engineer, whatever, my name, where you work, if you want to share that as well. But let's start with you, Terrence.
Yeah, sure. Name's Terrence. I've been doing software engineering for about 9 years. Started off in Java, went through Java, C#, did a little Python here and there. Latest language was Golang, which I love. At Fearless, did that for about probably a year and a half. Mostly just software development. I've done front end, I've done back end. Sorry, my phone's going off. I've done just a little bit of everything. I stay away from DevOps because I don't have any business in that stuff. I'll leave that to the experts. But now I'm at Mastermind, which is a technical recruiting company. Also Education Tech, we teach people how to code. And we just want to make it, knock down the barriers for entry for people trying to get into tech. We think everybody can get in. A lot of people that look like us, a lot of people that maybe don't even know they have the aptitude program. So we just want to just increase that and, get people jobs and just have everybody win, really. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's me.
My bad. I couldn't unmute my mic. All right, perfect. Thank you very much. Hey, my bad. It's all good. We're all family here. You're used to it, Terrence. Everyone else has to get used to the. We do have some trolls in the chat, so just troll back. I know we all have the ability to troll back. We'll troll back. We're not defenseless here. But let's go. Let's move on. Doug, you wanna kick us off?
What's up, guys? So my name's Doug. I'm a software engineer. I've been a full stack engineer pretty much my entire career. So that's probably about 10 years now. Currently, I am an engineering manager for the B2B team at this company called Leafly that does basically stuff around cannabis. So they help dispensaries build tooling and find customers and connect, people who want weed with places that have weed, and then all kinds of cannabis stuff. That's, like I said, I've been a full stack engineer pretty much my full career. A lot of Java, Node, obviously, and then, most recently been pretty heavy on the React side. I have some personal projects I'm working on where I'm using Elixir, so kind of just up and down the stack. I do enough DevOps to be dangerous. I'd like to know more. I do a lot of stuff. It's not always right, but it works. That's pretty much all I got. Yeah.
Cool. Let's go, Kwame. What you got for us?
All right. Well, I'm probably going to be the least experienced in the group. Pretty much a self-taught developer. I currently work as a data engineer for a digital marketing company here in Baltimore. Been within the tech industry for about 3 years. Started out as a data scientist. And then transitioned more into hardcore data engineering, building out pipelines and ETL, which we can go into a little bit later on. A little bit from our company standpoint, we're transitioning into full-blown DevOps. So definitely looking into getting full exposure going forward.
Dope. Michael.
Indeed, glad to be on the panel tonight. My name is Michael Jenkins. I'm probably the veteran on the panel. I've been doing some sort of technology for the past 20 plus years, starting out as a circuit designer, going into automation engineering, system administration. Past 6-7 years, I've been doing DevOps, systems reliability engineering is the new term. But for me, my job hasn't changed for the past 20 years. It's been me and a terminal and VI and some sort of web service on the back end. So Yeah, that's pretty much it. So I've seen a lot. I've done a lot. Some sidebar stuff. I also produce content for LinkedIn Learning, mostly in the DevOps and system administration space. And I also do journalism for blacksintechnology.net.
Dope. And last but certainly not least, Candace.
Hi, everyone. My name is Candace. I am a DevOps engineer. I work at Fearless. I just graduated from college last year in May. I was a software test engineer at Fearless, and I transitioned into DevOps. I know it's a big jump, but so I do DevOps now.
Dope. Excellent. Everyone's asked. I'm just trying to keep up with the chat. People were asking for everyone's LinkedIn and handles. I'll gather all that and get that out for people before the stream's out. Cool. I like it. All right. So we're gonna sprinkle in some questions, and then we're gonna also talk about ourselves a little bit. So I'm gonna ask a couple questions first, and then we'll start to dive into people's backgrounds, kind of your experiences, what you kind of been through. So was it Empty's Vision? I probably didn't pronounce that right. Asked, what are some soft skills needed to be successful? And I guess as an industry as a whole, does anyone want to take a stab at that one?
I definitely would like to start. As far as the software, I know this is not the software engineering panel, but I think this crosses over to DevOps as well. And I basically just boil programming down to two concepts, problem solving and persistence. I don't know if those are really soft skills. Also being somebody that somebody actually wants to work with helps too. Don't be can we curse on this stream? We can curse, right?
I mean, do what you need to do, but like don't yeah.
Don't be a butthole. And I mean that goes a long way, but I think persistence, for software engineering, you got to keep trying. You can't give up. You got to keep going. And you will eventually get it. And your ability to problem solve. I don't know half of the things I start working on, really. I have no clue. I know what I can get done in a week versus a day, but that's about it. I don't really know what I'm taking on, but I usually solve it. Those are really just two things. I think anybody can honestly do this stuff. It's not rocket science. Yeah, that'd be my 2 cents.
Go ahead, Michael. You're just a boss, so I'll let you go first.
No, yeah, I unmuted. I was going to piggyback on that because, like as engineers, that's what they pay you to do is like solve problems. And so, I mean, but still kind of going in that same vein is to be able to learn quickly. I don't know if that's a soft skill, but a lot of times, engineers will be faced with a problem and they'll say, this is the problem, come up with a solution. You got a day. So you need to be able to research the state of the art and figure out what's the best approach to solving the problem and pull that information together quickly. That's the learning quickly part. The second point I would say as far as a soft skill is be able to communicate effectively. And by that, I mean, be able to convey your ideas in a manner that, number one, like describes the solution, but it also kind of, I don't want to say like influences, like you don't have to be a salesperson, but you need to be confident in your ideas and be able to sell them, so to speak, so that, hey, I spent all this time working on this solution to your problem. This is the solution that I, intend to implement from you, and this is what it is. So if you got, you're able to learn quickly, you're able to translate your ideas into a solution, and then, communicate that effectively, boom, you got it.
Yeah, I was going to say the communication is key. I think when you talk about soft skills, like that's the one that people like forget about because like engineering tends to be like, oh, you're going to have to be a great communicator or like a great people person, and you don't, but like it's super important to like, especially if you want to get to the next level, because there's a lot of communication, both, within a team communicating like technical information and then to external, like, whole, like people who care about the project, like those stakeholders, communicating like progress reports, where we are when you like reach blockers, and then external of like the entire company or whatever org you're in, you have to be able to sell yourself. That's ultimately how you get a job. When you go into an interview, it's about, can I communicate my skills, my background, why it would be a good fit, and then can I also communicate why I am a person you would want to work with. So I definitely say communication is super important.
Kwame, Candace, y'all got anything for us?
Sure. I was gonna add the communication part in, but you guys already did. But also on the note of that, also when you're like working in a team, being able to communicate is important, especially when you're working on something and you feel like you're stuck. Like sometimes it's better to just like communicate to one of your team members and have them like pull them into what you're doing to get help, because at the end of the day, like what you're doing is like it's like a team effort, and you don't really want to like hold back progress because you want to figure this thing out yourself. Like sometimes it's better just to like ask for help.
Let me ask a question. Do you feel a certain way before asking for help? Like, oh, they gonna think I'm stupid, or do any of those feelings come in your head?
I don't, because I'm very comfortable with my team, so I don't feel that way. But yeah, no, not really.
So Kwame, speak now, forever hold your peace.
I mean, I gotta echo the communication, to be honest. You have to be able to communicate not only with your team that, hey, I need help, I need to understand this conceptually. And I mean, as an engineer, you're holding multiple hats. Like you're expected to to understand the problem at its core in a day, in a week's time, and then also be able to translate that somehow to a technical team and be able to get that solution provided. And you just can't hold back.
Cool. I definitely, I love, I like that everyone's bringing up communication. I think there's an image of software engineers and software developers that like they just kind of sit in the corner and they're these weird people. But like I think that I actually think that may have been true in the past. But like that's the soft skill of being able to communicate effectively, like both within the technical space of communicating with your other engineers and people on your team, and to stakeholders and the people who are not technical. The value of the things that you're doing is super duper important, and I can like that. I would rather you be able to do that than to be the best coder on my team, to be 100% honest with you. So yeah, I would definitely say communication is a big one for me. So we got one here from Dumper Talk. I like the name. It's funny to me. Again, I'm a child. I've been a GUI developer for over a year. For anyone who doesn't know what a GUI is, that is a graphical user interface. That's what you see. Unfortunately, just got laid off due to COVID layoffs. I'm very sorry to hear that. Definitely very sorry to hear that. But I'm glad you're here to kind of get some answers to your questions. But what would you recommend as the best way to get back on my feet? That is a tough one. Does anyone, after this one, I'm going to start, this one's tough, so I'm going to let anyone who wants to take it. But after this, I'm going to start calling people out to kind of answer some of the questions. So does anyone have anything good for this? I have some stuff for this, if not.
I mean, I got tips. Usually, the tips that I give are for people that are looking to get into an industry. It sounds like you're already in the industry and you're trying to get back in. I mean, that's a tough one. So you almost have to look to where the hiring is. Yeah, I'm just gonna stop right there because of like where to take it. Because I mean, the industry as a whole, depending on what industry you're in, could be sort of frozen. So you might have to look outside your industry. If you have some other specialization or some other skill, maybe try to flex that skill into an area that is hiring. And I mean, I say that, I'm just trying to think of some, industry that might not be frozen in this particular, situation. And I'll pause right there as I think. Let's see, Doug's unmuted, if you want to jump in.
Sure. I've never been laid off personally, but like every company I've worked at has had layoffs at one point or another. It's wild. I don't know how it happens. But I will say that like my best advice to you is that like you should like start hitting up your connections, right? If you've been working for a place for a year, like you have people you've worked with, people who you've worked with who've left and gone other places. Anytime a company lays people off, it's always a really hard thing for a company to do. For like all your managers, for all your coworkers. So like reach out to those people and be like, hey, do you guys know of anyone who's hiring, any options? That's a really good way to get your foot in the door, and then reach out to anyone else who like is working in a technical field, and like they might have either their company's hiring, they may know people, and really you just like start like plumbing those connections. If you are not a part of any like technical groups, I would definitely suggest joining some. I'm a part of some. Like there's one here in Baltimore. How I know some of the guys on the panel. There's Blacks in Tech, which Mike was a part of, and then just other ones in general. Like those are also a great place to go to like be like, hey man, like on random tough times, like does anyone know of any options out there? The last thing I would say is that if you cannot find a full-time gig, there's a lot of freelancing work you can do too, which can help float you until you do find something. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I definitely I agree. I think what's interesting about this current time is that this is unique. This is very unique, and it's going to be kind of hard to give you some sound advice for here on out, because I think the world is going to be different when we get to the other side of this, and I think the way that I don't know, I think things are going to be different on the other side. So I'm not sure what that's going to look like, but judging off of what I do know, ways you can kind of leverage the industry. Being a GUI developer, you have marketable skills in today's workforce. You definitely have those things. Even if you're super junior, whatever, you have those marketable skills already. I think one would be figuring out where your skills, if your goal is to get a job immediately, find out where your skills overlap most in the current market. If that means you're a front-end developer working on websites, great. If that means you are building some type of in-house software and maybe you even want to move into UX UI or something, I think that's what you want to find, the overlap in the current skills that you have and kind of what's out there. So do a little research on that, and maybe share what your skills are with everyone, and maybe people can help you find that. But if you're able to, I would take this opportunity to figure out what it is that you want to move towards. Like find out where the industry's going, find out what skills are going to be most marketable kind of in the coming years, and I will start diving into those. I think leverage what you currently know now. I think tech learning, the way that you learn technologies kind of snowballs as you kind of keep picking up things. So because you're not starting out fresh, I think I think you can pick up some things relatively quickly. And I'd start if it's possible, take this time to start diving towards something that you're super interested in. It would be my advice. But like I said, I think right now is going to be a very interesting time. Everyone's kind of going remote now, so it's forced to go remote. So I actually think there's going to be a lot of jobs that we're only hiring, within Houston or within Cali. I think we'll soon be hiring far outside of those current locations. So this might actually, blow up the market for us and make these jobs much more available for everyone. And that's my 2 cents on that. Anyone else on that? Okay, so let's take a break on questions real quick. I want everyone to learn about you all, and I want to learn about you all as well. So, let's go with Candace. I think Candace, you probably have the most interesting story here. But kind of just, I want people to kind of know one of the things that's tough going through your tech journey, for people trying to get into tech, is to know exactly what you need to do. It's always tough to know exactly what you need to do, and do I need a degree? Do I need to do this? And do I need to do that? You mind just kind of telling us, just your background so far, kind of what you've done. Education, I think, is important. What level of education you have, and just kind of where you've been, kind of the steps that you've taken to kind of get where you are now.
Yeah. So I graduated in May from UMBC with a degree in computer science. I was a software tester at Fearless since 2016, the end of 2016, and I was there through graduation last year. After that, well, I guess before I graduated, I kind of transitioned into DevOps because everybody on my team was super helpful and was letting me try out everything. So I got to dive a little bit into UX design, and then being a developer, also of course testing, and then DevOps. So I kind of I was oh, I kind of like DevOps, and I ended up sticking with that. So I transitioned while I was still interning into DevOps, and then when I graduated, that's when I was okay, I want to be a DevOps engineer. And then I made the actual switch then. So yes, I did like go to school with a degree in computer science.
Do you mind telling people what I guess what you kind of did as a software tester, or like what software testing is, just so they have some context around that?
Yes, so pretty much I did like some regression testing, also just like making sure, like, so when you're software testing, like you don't just want to like make sure that the thing does what it's supposed to do. You kind of want to like test the limits of what the thing that you built was, and make sure that it has like that it's of good quality, because you can do something and it can fulfill its purpose for what it's technically meant to do, but it could just like look really bad, or just like be like very difficult to like use or something like that. So that's pretty much what I was doing when I was doing software testing. So yeah.
And did you find, I have two questions to kind of just prod out a little bit there. Did you find the jump from software testing? I know DevOps, we've talked about on this is the DevOps Bootcamp. We've talked about a lot of stuff. We've covered so many different things. So I think people know that DevOps, the discipline DevOps is pretty extensive and has lots of different pieces to it. How did you find the jump, or how are you finding the jump? Because I guess technically everyone's still like no one's really into DevOps. Everyone's just learning more things to kind of be more of DevOps. But like, how are you finding the journey so far as you switched over?
It was definitely like a big transition. I feel like even less so than like maybe being a software developer and transitioning into DevOps. It was a really big jump. When I was testing, I feel like I had like a little more to do with like everybody's like tasks, because like they would do something and then like I would kind of make sure that what they're doing like is like it's of good quality. So just like being DevOps and being like kind of like more focused on like my own individual task, it's really different. So yeah.
Cool. And the last question there, Afrocoder asked a great question here. He saw that he or she, I don't know, saw that you had a solutions architect cert. Was it helpful in your current role, and would you advise taking the DevOps cert instead?
So I'm not really too sure about the DevOps cert, but I do think that my cert was helpful. I learned a lot about AWS, which we use a lot of. So it was definitely helpful to me. And I do plan on going for another cert. I'm just not sure which one yet. But I think it definitely gave me like, I was studying like more like AWS services than we were actually using. And it was just like it was just actually like I picked up knowledge that I could actually like apply to like what I currently do. So I do think it was helpful.
Dope. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for your insight. Let's do one more person before we get back to some of the questions. We'll definitely, again, we'll highlight everyone for sure. Doug, you mind telling us a little bit about your background, kind of education, what you've done, where you've been, how you've done it?
Yeah, sure. So I took the circuitous route to engineering. So I went to high school in Maryland. Was graduating high school. I was like looking for colleges. I applied to everything because I didn't think I was going to get in anywhere. So I ended up going to the school called RIT in upstate New York, Rochester, New York. It's cold as fuck. Sorry, I'm not supposed to curse.
What's done is done.
I started as journalism though, because I was really good at writing, really good at like English. Like always got all A's in all my essays. I started as journalism, and I was really gung ho about that because I wanted to be a sports journalist, work for ESPN, do the whole nine. And then like probably like 4 weeks into like the major, they had a class on like what are careers in journalism like, and they were talking about salaries, and they're like, yeah, like you can expect to graduate and make like 26,000. I'm like, well, guys, tuition here is like 30 something, so that's not going to work. So from there, I started looking for things to switch to, and I went through like undecided, IT, mechanical engineering, and eventually settled on computer science because I was in this computer security program, which was mostly just like computer networking, and I'm terrible at networking, and I was doing really good in all the programming classes and really terrible in all the networking classes, so I switched, and that's pretty much how I started programming. In retrospect, it made a lot of sense. I was always big into like tech stuff in high school, like video games, computers, like that stuff was interesting, but like I guess I didn't want to do it or whatever. So since then, just been like pretty much working full stack on the web. I did one job where I was like, doing programming for like a computer security firm. But like other than that, like, I worked for Oracle, doing, full stack engineering for them in their construction business unit. So we made like, basically software to manage like large construction projects. They used our software for like mostly like telcos, construction companies, but I think Ubisoft used our stuff to make an Assassin's Creed game once, which was pretty cool. From there was, I think the other big names was, I worked most recently for Under Armour, like the apparel company. So I was on their e-commerce side. Like I did a bunch of projects there, like redesigned their entire checkout experience, a lot of fulfillment stuff, which is just like really complex, like parsing of like XML documents to like, parse order information and send it to the right place, and like, do transactional emails and stuff like that. And then like I said, most recently, I've gotten kind of into like the management aspect of it. So I'm doing software engineering management at a weed company. And so that's pretty much been kind of the story where I've gotten.
It's funny when you say weed company every time. I don't know why.
I feel like cannabis is like, most people know what cannabis is, but some people are like, what is cannabis? And I'm like, that's weed. That's weed, guys.
That's fair. Well, first we have a new attendee here. What's up, George? Thank you for joining. Good to have you.
How you doing?
Pretty good. One, just introduce yourself, just your name, maybe just like your role and kind of where you work for now, and then we'll dive deeper into your background and answer questions in a little bit. Just give people some insight on who you are.
Okay, cool. Hey everybody, I'm George. I work in the same building as Aaron and Terrence. Sorry for being a bit late. Promised my little brother I was going to play some board games with him, so
Excellent.
I kept that promise.
You're a great person.
Yeah, so we're here now. But I am currently working at a company called Stack. It's an ad tech company, and I manage their ETL pipeline to get data basically where it needs to be. In my spare time recently, I've been hosting a Minecraft server because I'm a big old nerd, and just been working on some like side Python projects in like computer vision and I guess API development around that. So that's all for me.
I'm glad you brought up the Minecraft server. One thing I definitely want to get into tonight is people's hobbies and stuff. I think people have a weird connotation of what engineers or software people or DevOps do. And I think people are going to be surprised at all the different, like, people do so much random stuff. So I definitely want to get to that later on. So thank you for that. We're going to get to a couple more questions, and then we'll hop back in and hear more about everyone else. And Michael, we'll definitely get to you sooner than later, since I know you might have to get out a little bit early. So let's get back to the questions really quick. So Africoder also asked Terrence, what about DevOps do you feel isn't for you, or what do you not like? This is a great question. So just contextualizing, Terrence got that software background. We're in this DevOps bootcamp. I'm very interested to hear this.
So good question. Great question. It's not that I don't like DevOps. Actually, after working at Fearless, I see the value of it. Everybody there is always talking about DevOps and how it's a process and all that good stuff. So I definitely think DevOps is valuable, and I do like it. I just feel like personally it came not out of nowhere, but it was like system admin stuff. And then all of a sudden DevOps became this monster, and it's a little bit of intimidation from me because I don't know Terraform. I don't know any of that stuff. And so when they asked me to participate or do something with it, I just throw my hands up like, I can learn it, but I don't know it off the top of my head. I think a lot of times program managers think if you know software, you can just jump into it. And that's just not the case. I think it's easier maybe if you're a developer and you jump into it, but I don't know any of that stuff. I'm willing to learn it. But I got to be given the chance to learn it. It's not something I just know. And I think that's something that a lot of developers do when they don't know something. Either one or two things happen. They'll either talk bad about it, which I'm not, or they'll just disregard it, or they'll actually like try to learn it. And I'm in that try to learn it stage. So I definitely like DevOps. It's just, I don't know what y'all are doing. I don't know what Aaron is doing when he teaches his classes. I'm paying attention just like y'all paying attention. I'm a student. I know nothing. yeah, I just gotta walk before I can, or crawl before I can walk. You know what I mean? I don't know that stuff, but I'm learning. I'm getting better. So it's not that I don't like it. It's just,
as a DevOps engineer, it's very interesting to hear, because I think that I look at software engineers, I'm like, y'all do stuff, and I'm like, that's too much for my brain to handle. So I'll just stay over in my corner. I mean, luckily, the team that we operate on is pretty collaborative, so we get to kind of really feel the full scope of that. Like it's not as sectioned off or siloed as other places. But I definitely, it's so interesting hearing from the other side of the aisle per se, like what your thoughts are specifically about that. So it's very, very interesting. All right, I got one for. I have a couple for you, Michael. Actually, we do have to, because your name is Michael Jenkins. We will ask you a question specifically about Jenkins in a little bit.
Bring it.
But first, we're gonna go answer Blas 7's question. Let's discuss some of the aspects of communication and coordination as a chat program, emails, meetings, or comments in Git. What works best, I guess, for communicating with your team? How do you think? I guess what tools and things, what methods of communication do you think work best? What are the best ways to go about that?
And I'm unmuted, so I'll go ahead and start with my response to that. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you got to communicate with the team, your stakeholders, and your peers, people who pay the bills, et cetera, et cetera. And I mean, it's going to be different channels of communication for each of those. And I guess kind of to give you a description of the way that my team works and a little bit of background of that, I came from a team before where we maybe had one meeting a week. And so we would kind of get our assignments, then we would wait for tickets, and tickets would come through. And that was cool because we had a lot of independence. We can kind of work independently. The team that I'm on now, we have so many meetings that when I started, I was like, man, this is for the birds. But after a while, I realized, like, okay, the more that we sort of talk about work, like what is expected to be done and how we're actually going to do what's expected to be done, that kind of frees me up to do it. And so the downtime that I have when I'm not in a meeting, which is probably, say, in a 40-hour week, maybe 25, 30 hours, I'm like knocking stuff out, because I know what exactly needs to be done. But anyway, so we communicate, number one, in meetings. We use Slack as our chat application. I work on a team of SREs that supports a team of developers, but we all come together as a larger team. So, and each of those teams has their own channel in Slack. Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, and then I was just going to say, we also have a Confluence space where we share documentation and like records and all that kind of stuff. And again, we have our separate Confluence. They have the development team has their Confluence, but we both have permission to read and to write into each other's space. So we're like these separate teams that come together as a unified team. But yeah, mostly Slack, Confluence. We really don't use GitHub or GitLab. We use GitLab, but we don't really use issues or Git comments as a true communication method. Just doesn't really work for the way that we work.
Dope. I think since you've already gone a little bit into kind of what your team and structure is like now, you wanna give us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, man. And I don't even know where to start.
We want all of it.
I'll go all the way back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, as a kid, I grew up just like loving video games. I remember I've got two older brothers, and for Christmas one year we got an Atari 2600. Maybe I'm aging myself with that game system, but I played Pac-Man, Space Invaders, like the hardcore old Atari games. Just loved it. Anyway, I grew up really getting interested in electronics, and as I had the benefit or the fortune of going to a magnet school in Atlanta, Georgia, that focused on engineering and applied technology. So when I was in high school, I was already studying programming. I was studying robotics, physics, chemistry, really hardcore technology topics in high school. Ended up going to Iowa State University to study computer engineering. Actually, I started as an electrical engineer, and I found that college level physics was not a joke. So I dropped out of double E, and I actually went to journalism because I like to write, I like to do video. I like to take pictures. I like to document things. As a journalism student, though, I found that their internships are unpaid. So I was like, what the hell? How am I going to go to Chicago or New York and get a job and not have cash because they're not paying me? But I was like, my engineering friends over here, they're making 15, 20, maybe 25 bucks an hour for their summer jobs. I need to get on that boat. So anyway, I went back to engineering. I stuck with computer engineering this time because it had less physics. And I actually learned how to fabricate integrated circuits because, again, I wanted to go into the game industry making game consoles. So I wanted to learn how to make circuits. And I'll try to be quick with this as I get through this part. But the summer between my junior and senior year, I did a internship where I actually learned how to fabricate integrated circuits, and I hated it. I was like, I hated the physics. We had to go into a lab with bunny suits and everything, looking at wafers and probes, and I was like, I can't do this as a job for the rest of my life, or whatever the case is. But that following semester, I learned about the automated side of it. We're actually laying out circuits using software, and I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. Anyway, fast forward, graduated. I got a job as a circuit designer. I learned how to use the tools that we use for circuit design very, very quickly. I learned the Unix operating system very, very quickly, to the point where I was teaching my peers how to automate the things that they were doing. And my manager was like, okay, forget designing circuits. You need to be engineering support. So I started to support the other engineers that were designing circuits. And that kind of became my specialty. It involved a lot of system administration, a lot of scripting, some programming, but definitely a lot of automation. And so that kind of really, built up my skills in scripting and automation. Fast forward, and I should say kind of the subtext of all this, I was working in defense. So I started off at Rockwell Collins, they're a defense contractor, left Rockwell, went to IBM, a commercial company. I was supporting network processor designers, still again in the circuit space. I left IBM, went to a startup company. They were also designing processors. So again, I was like their, like engineering support. I left there, went to Raytheon, which is also a defense company. And that was kind of a change for me because I was supporting mechanical engineers. And there's not a lot of stuff that you can automate in mechanical processes because they're very graphical processes. So the engineers are bringing up a cog, and they're like designing the dimensions of this cog. And it's kind of hard to do that. It's kind of hard to automate that process. Anyway, I was with Raytheon for about 10 years, just about. Doing Windows administration, which I had never done before. So I picked up that as a skill. I still did some Linux administration. And I also did some contracts administration as a sidebar, some program management. So picked up those skills as well. I was laid off from Raytheon. And that was my second layoff. I was laid off from the startup company as well. Laid off from Raytheon. I actually worked independently for about 6 months doing my own consulting and contracting. Picking up side jobs here and there. And then I actually picked up a job consulting for Toyota in the automotive industry, which is yet another industry that I was able to get some experience with. I got laid off from that job and got picked up into the media space, media industry, working for a media company, basically managing all of their Linux infrastructure. Learned a lot of automation there. Of course, all the while I'm using tools like, going all the way back, at Toyota, I started doing more cloud work because we were moving things from on-premises to AWS. So I got my feet into the cloud there. Definitely started using Jenkins as an automation tool, Ansible as an automation framework.
He said it.
Yeah, I said it.
He said it.
So, and that's been in my toolbox ever since. So I went to UBM was the name of the company that I was left Toyota for, or got laid off at Toyota. Went to UBM. I was at UBM for about 2 years, and Disney recruited me. And the crazy story is they recruited me once, and I interviewed for the job, and they're like, the interviewing manager was like, "Yeah, we don't want this guy." So I was like, "Okay, whatever. I got a job. I'm good." Recruiters came back maybe about a year later, and they're like, "Hey, you want to take a look at Disney?" And I'm like, "You know what, Disney, you guys kind of gave me a runaround last time, so whatever." But they were like, no, come check it out. So it's funny, the recruiter gave me a list of the jobs, because it was several jobs that she was kind of putting me out for. And one of the jobs was with the manager that didn't hire me. I was like, yeah, definitely I'm not applying for that one. Yeah, just take that one off. So I interviewed with a couple other teams, and one of the teams I found a really, really good fit for. And this was I guess not really the first time I left the company, but I felt good after coming off of like a couple layoffs, leaving a company on my own terms for, better terms. So, I mean, took a pay bump with that, got some, nice perks and everything that came along with the job that way. So now I'm at Disney, and I'm what they call a senior systems reliability engineer. Basically, I'm a DevOps guy, automation guy, system administrator. I take code from the development team, I deploy it, I manage the infrastructure that the code gets deployed on. It's mostly websites, a couple mobile applications. We use Terraform, we use GitLab, we use Jenkins, we use Chef, we use Ansible, we use Python, we use Bash. You name it, I could probably pull it out of my toolbox, and I'm using it some kind of way. If not now, at least in the past, 20 plus years of my career. So I'll kind of leave it at that, and open it up or hand it back over to you, Aaron, if you got any questions or anything.
That was dope. I think we're all I love. It's exciting to me that you work at Disney. I don't know why. It's just I guess because Disney in my mind is like such a magical place. like it's just exciting to hear, oh, somebody actually works there. Like, people work at Disney. Like, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like that someone has to work at Disney, but I don't know. I never thought about, all these big companies are they are tech companies, and so it's just, I don't know, something I never thought about. And so every time I see the shirt, I'm like, that just seems fun.
Yeah. I thought I would rep the Disney Tech shirt tonight, but I'll offer two more things before I wrap up and we go on to questions, where the case is. One of the things I did want to share my hobby. So I'm kind of a foodie. So I enjoy making custom cocktails at home. And one of the things I've just recently started doing is infusing liquors with flavors. So basically, the last one I've done is a jalapeno tequila, and I'm making some bomb ass margaritas with that. Oh my God. So that's one of my hobbies there. And number two, I just wanted to share, like, I don't know if anybody would ask the question, but like kind of a bad day, or a learning experience. Nothing's bad when you talk about work, but it's like a learning experience, a bad day on the job as a DevOps engineer. And probably that experience was working. I was on call on the Friday after Thanksgiving, so Black Friday basically. And one of the applications that I was supporting was shopdisney.com, which is like the number one like web interface, or web portal for a consumer purchases for Disney products. And the site was going down, and it was just like I was out of town. I was in Chicago at a family reunion, trying to spend time with my family, and I was like, man, this is the last thing I want to deal with. And fortunately, we were able to figure out what the problem was and resolve it. But kind of like the scary thing about it is, because this was a commercial site, it was Black Friday, we had charts up that showed like customer spend, so you could see like this trend in the millions of dollars going up. And oh, junk, the site is going, the site's offline, or something with the site. And you see that $1 million trend start to go down, and you're like, oh man, what the heck? So I mean, as an engineer, you find yourself in those situations. But I would just offer to people to just keep a cool head, rely on your skills, your troubleshooting skills, and your team, your documentation, to just kind of figure out what's going on and fix it, stop the bleeding. And then after you stop the bleeding, fix the problem, take that as a learning point to learn from it, and build yourself. Just like put that in your backpack, your toolbox, and say, okay, I've been through that experience. If it comes up again, I know how to handle it.
That's phenomenal insight. You'll learn, especially in the DevOps space, you'll learn a lot. You'll learn a lot of not only job lessons, but life lessons on the job. But whenever you're in charge of prod, you'll learn some good lessons often. Cool. George, you just cut off your camera. I don't know if you're still there, but I wanted to throw a question your way if you're there. If not, we can wait for you to come back. All good? So we got one from Somniactic. And actually I want George to answer this, then Kwame, then Candace, all to answer this question. What are your non-negotiables for jobs? Like, what won't you do, or what's got to be there for you to kind of take that job? If any. If you don't have any, that's okay too. What are your non-negotiables for jobs?
That's actually a really interesting question because coming into the industry, I've only been out of college for 2 years now. I've really started like thinking about that and looking at that going into a new job. And really what it's come down to is I want an environment where I can learn and grow. And if that environment isn't there for me, it doesn't matter how much they offer to pay me, I won't take it because I'm kind of just like a lifelong learner and I want to continue doing that.
I like it. Kwame, what you got?
I actually got to echo that, but I definitely have to add in now, especially off of my workaholism that I've had over the last couple of years. Work-life balance is incredibly important to me now. So remote work has to be kind of somewhere in the option, especially in the field that I'm in, regardless if it's data engineering or even just anywhere in tech. I should be able to work wherever and still be a meaningful person, a part of the team. So I need a place and environment that I can continuously learn, tackle new problems, as well as remote work.
I love it. Candace?
Yeah, so you have to, I guess one of my main things is just respect my time. Like I can't work 24/7. Like there has to be like some sort of boundary. Anywhere I go, like they have to respect my personal time. So
All those very important. Actually, I want to hear everyone's on this. Doug, what you got?
Crap. So I mean, number one, I refuse to do PHP. It's not happening.
That's fair.
Never gonna happen. I echo definitely the respecting the time, like the work-life balance. That's big. I think for me, like the big thing is like, especially at like where I'm at now, like a company has to be open to change. Like I've been doing this. I have ideas. Like don't bring me in if you just want to like do the same thing. Like if your company has issues and you're not willing to like at least think about like, hey, maybe we should change this process or maybe we should change this service or like I'm not for that because that just makes my life difficult. It means that I have to like, maintain stuff that's broken and never going to get fixed because we don't want to invest in like tackling the technical debt or whatever. Like, so something I always ask about during interviews, like, what's your policy on like technical debt and stuff like that?
Terrence?
Yeah, I would have to kind of piggyback on that. I was going to say that something non-negotiable for me would be supporting an environment that is stuck. It's particularly if it's in a data center. So like if there's no plan to modernize or migrate from on-premises to cloud, and I mean, a couple examples, I will say where I didn't negotiate this. When I left, I was laid off at Toyota and I went to UBM. UBM was all on premises. I was coming from a cloud environment to an on-premises environment. And I was like, hey guys, there's this cool thing out here called the cloud. We should really think about doing that. And, I kept bringing that up. I kept bringing up automation and my management was like, no, we're good. Kept pushing it. And then that was like one of the things that appealed to me, like going to Disney, because they came and like, hey, you're going to be working with AWS. You're going to be working with Google Cloud over here. And I'm like looking at where I am over, where I was. And I was like, yeah, these guys have no plan to go to AWS. So I got to get out of here. I felt like I would have been stuck. My skills wouldn't have been advancing. So I was like, yeah, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
For me, I would say what George said about the being challenged. I worked on this project and they were using this technology that was like 10 years behind. And it was just, I wasn't learning anything. And that was like, I didn't know it would have that effect on me as a developer, but it really just brought me down. So I have to be learning constantly. Yeah, that's a big one. I have to constantly be learning. I would say that's it for me.
Yeah. I agree with that one. I definitely, it's weird. I don't think one of my non-negotiables is, I think for a job, you have to prove to me, like, at least from now, coming from where I've been now, like, you've got to prove to me that there's some culture of mentorship where you're going to be, wherever I'm going to go, whether or not it's going to be me providing it or me getting it somewhere. Like, there needs to be an open culture of mentorship. And I think that's one of the few non-negotiables for me. Like, I just think that's so important. It's so hard to like navigate the industry and like know what to learn. And know what to do next and to know whether or not you're doing a good job and things like that without being able to have people around that you could trust that are in your corner. And I don't know, if the company's culture, it doesn't have to be like a thing that's set up to, now you have a mentor, you're paired with this person. No, it doesn't have to be that at all. If you have a culture of helpfulness, if you have a culture of, sharing information, that's sufficient for me. But I think that's a big one for me. Sure.
You mean like in the tech space or in life space? Like when you say mentor, what are you talking about?
I do think specifically in the tech space, just because of, again, the difficulty of navigation of the industry itself. But I think in life period, like as long as, well, like the mentorship needs to be in tech, not in life. I'm not expecting the people there to, make sure that I understand my place in the world. I think that's up to me to figure out, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's hear about Kwame. Let's hear about your background, man. Let's find out a little bit more about who you are.
Ooh. Let's see. Well, I have probably a very unique kind of setup. I graduated from Eastern Kentucky University with a psych degree. Realized that you can't do anything with a bachelor's degree in psychology besides, look at people. So while I was there, I was working kind of part-time at Amazon and was like, oh, I could probably be like a little manager here, and realized that like I could do a lot of automation there. I'm kind of I don't know really the best word to say it for real, but just it kind of reignited like the passion that I had dealing with like tech overall, and ended up automating a lot of like dashboards for our department and even like our handoff. Eventually, I was like, hey, let me transition fully into tech. The management stuff is kind of getting old. You end up babysitting more people than actually fixing the solutions. And ended up taking the buyout, leaving Amazon, and went fully into a data analyst role, and was able to dive deep into the actual data, understanding predictive analytics, descriptive analytics, and I kind of plateaued there, dealing with actual like solving problems. I ended up working at a commercial ambulance company here in Baltimore, and they were stuck in Excel land. Everything's in Excel, everything's on premise, everything like the echo about what Terrence was saying, you feel like you're plateauing on your learning. So I ended up leaving there and really got passionate about data science, which led me to work at Facebook for about a year, dealing with their Facebook dating platform. We built that out, added a couple features, dealing with computer vision. And Facebook is no joke. They challenge you at all times. You probably won't get any sleep, but it's definitely fun. Definitely was a good challenge. I had to step down from there, and led me to where I am now as a data engineer. I definitely want to continue to learn, like from the data science standpoint, but I realized coming from being 100% self-taught, I had a little gaps in like my learning. So I could get things working, but they didn't look enterprise level from like a coding standpoint. So went to the data engineering side, which is like software engineering, building out ETL pipelines, making sure we're moving data from point A to point B, and making sure that the solution is actually scalable. So now, like I'm at Flywheel Digital marketing firm. We literally specialize 100% in the cloud. And we have a heck of a team that builds enterprise software. We have our data pod that deals with just all the ins and outs of the entire business. We handle every bit of data. We deal with the searching. So anything that you buy off of Amazon feeds back to our algorithm. So we actually have a really deep learning platform that's ingrained within our software. And from that point on, like I've just been able to learn so much. And this year alone, we're looking to transition into like an entire like DevOps infrastructure setup. So it's like getting into a company at the fresh end when they're transitioning all of their infrastructure over is definitely a good learning opportunity. And for that alone, I'm like, hey, I've not only made it into a tech, but I've also transitioned myself to being that pillow talk, like counselor type dude with psychology to moving on.
I like how you sold yourself there as the pillow talk guy. I like it.
I think that's what it is, yo. Like, there's literally no real help when it comes down to like psychology. They can't give you really any insightful advice without putting themselves in jeopardy. And that's something that you kind of learn when you get into like the mental health space.
I feel like now, just you saying the things that you just said, I feel like all the time that I've known you now, you've been manipulating me.
Big facts.
It's good to know. I'll know how to approach our run-ins a little bit better now.
I will now create another predictive model for you.
You're gonna golf when he sees you is what he's saying.
Nope. I'm not seeing anyone. I'm social distancing. My door is locked. Maya's in the way. She'll protect me. We do in fact have a stream guardian. All right. So there's a lot. I've been copying all the questions. There's actually way more questions than I thought left. So let's see if we can start getting through some of them. I think there's a great one from Go React JS. When you're working on a DevOps team, does each person specialize in one or two things, like a Jenkins person, AWS, Kubernetes, etc.? What are your? I want to start this one off just to put a little context around it. Obviously, every DevOps team is going to be different, just like every team period is going to be different. So we might all have different answers on this, because I've been places where the people did specialize in a platform or in a tool, and where I am now, that is not the case. We all kind of have to know all of it, which, can be overwhelming at times. But the good thing is, if you're a collaborative, open team, you don't have to be a pro at all of it. You can ask your neighbor to help you out. And then when they say they don't know either, then it's no one's fault that you guys don't know the answer. It's just a new thing that you guys have to learn. But let's go with Candace. What do you got for us here?
Yes, so I don't work on a team full of DevOps engineers, but Aaron and I are on the same team, and we're both the only DevOps engineers on the team, and we don't specifically pick up tickets because we're better in a certain area. I know for me particularly, I'm eager to pick up things that I'm the least familiar with so that I can learn something new, because I think it's important to be cross-functional. So yeah, that's, for me, it's just picking up stuff that I'm unfamiliar with.
I was good.
Yeah, go ahead, Michael. I was actually looking for your insight, because you work at a larger company than we do.
Yeah, indeed. So, and I guess I'll kind of give you the framework of the organization that I work in. I'm on a team of 4 engineers. We're all DevOps SRE engineers. 2 are full-time at Disney, 2 are contractors. And we report to a manager who manages at least 2 other teams, maybe 3 other teams that are very similar to the makeup of my team. And we're embedded with a development team. So we are their designated, SRE and DevOps people. So as far as skills go, I think we all kind of bring a very different set of skills to the table. For instance, me specifically, I bring a lot of automation experience, cloud experience, scripting, whereas my teammates, they bring, and I say my background is more Python web applications. Their background is more in Java web applications. So that kind of balances things out. Our team is looking to move into a more Dockerized environment, specifically running, using Kubernetes as the orchestrator. And we, when I say we, me or my other full-time Disney employee, we didn't have Kubernetes experience. So we brought on contractors that had that experience to kind of, lift our team up. But we also have the benefit of having these peer teams, I call them our sister teams, that we can lean on because they're already running environments on Kubernetes. So we brought on experience for our team, and then we're leaning on our sister teams to get experience in tools that way. The other thing that I would say for that particular type of arrangement where your team does have a different set of skills is like documentation and notes has to be tight, because we do have on-call rotation. So like say for instance, I'm the Python guy, we're running a Python app, and my teammate, he's also a little bit more experienced with Ruby. And so we're supporting Python apps, we're supporting Ruby apps, and I'm cool with Python when I'm on call, but the Ruby app breaks, I'm like, oh crap, what's going on? You know, we push ourselves to document processes that we implement or solutions or whatever the case is for the apps that we support, so that when I'm on call, you know, something breaks at 3 a.m., I don't have to call my team member. I could just go to the documentation and say, oh, this is the solution for how I fix this thing. And then I go ahead and fix it. Same thing for the Python stuff or whatever that I support. So I would say if you're on a team and skills are kind of like diverging, that you need to document, like do a brain dump on the stuff that you support, so that another team member, they might not be an expert at it, but they could pick up your notes, they could pick up your documentation, and maybe step by step go through it to resolve a problem or something like that.
Anyone else on that one? Sorry, just trying to gather up the rest of the questions. Anyone else for that one? All right. So I actually think this is actually a good one. This is actually a good one. And I want to talk about it right now. It's because while people are actually having the conversation about it in the chat now. Heavy hitting question about, huh? You ready? It's specifically about diversity in tech. So this is an interesting panel. It is not indicative of the industry, and this just kind of has to go with these are the people that I've met through various groups, people I work with every day, people in the building. The actual Wednesday stream will actually be surprisingly a lot more diverse than it is tonight, even though we do have the people who fall into the diversity category on here. But diversity in tech. Uno Plank says, I've noticed there's a lot of diversity in tech. Are any of you noticing that some companies are shifting away from this, or is it still rare to see non-white male majority bro teams? It's a great question. It's an interesting question because everyone kind of sees the industry through their lens, and a lot of things kind of matter here. So I definitely want to talk about there's some things we need to put context around. One, where you are in the country. I think it's important. I think that is important to know where you are, because that will feed into your experience. And I start with that. I think there's some other things I want to throw in there, but I kind of want to let people go where they're going to go with this. Does anyone want to start here? Because this one is very interesting. Doug, I knew you were ready to go in on this, but it's a good question. I hope everyone's open-minded to this question. I hope no one gets offended as the things we talk about. Again, these are all highlights of people's experiences. So yeah. And also, what's up, RWX Rob? Welcome to the channel. Thank you for the raid. Appreciate everyone who's come in. Yeah, let's go.
So there's like a lot of aspects to this. Answering the immediate question, because I've been looking at the chat too, so yeah. I've seen other conversation around it. So like just to the immediate question, like, is tech more diverse than it has been? Yes. Is it as diverse as it could be? No. I think the bro coders culture is more or less a thing of the past. Like, you don't really see that, mostly because the companies that kind of like did that got more mature. They couldn't do it anymore, right? Like, that was like an early Facebook thing, like we're gung-ho Silicon Valley startup. That's not a thing anymore. Companies are way more diverse. They care more about diversity. They're trying to hire more diverse people for many reasons, right? I think diversity itself is valuable in engineering because of all the things that go along with it. It's not that Black people or women or anything else make you a better engineer or a worse engineer or any other kind of engineer. It just makes you a different type of engineer. And I can say from my experience, like having worked at a lot of different places, the perspective that people with different backgrounds bring is in and of itself valuable, right? We've had lots of things where like this person's perspective has changed the entire way we think about a problem, right? Or like my perspective being, a Black dude from the city has changed, entire person's problem. Or like this guy who's like, for instance, so we had this whole thing at Oracle where we're building this engineering software, right, for like this large telecoms, right? And these sites generally have like really good infrastructure, right? All the sites that we're talking about are in the city, like, so the first thing they do is wire up these like trailers where they're going to have their engineers in to like get an internet. That's like literally the first thing they do. And when they don't do that, they have like these portable like Wi-Fi antennas that they plug in, and that's how they get internet. Well, like we started talking, and like this random dude who's like from Pennsylvania, like middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, is like, whoa, like where I'm from, like none of those repeaters work. Like, we're basically like on dial-up. And it changed the entire way we thought about, this problem, because we're assuming like, hey, you can always guarantee you're going to have broadband internet. And this person who has a very different perspective than all the city people were like, hey, that's an assumption that's not necessarily correct, right? Any of us could have come up with that idea or thought about that, like drawback, but we didn't. Someone else who had that experience does. And I've seen that happen time and time again with people of all different backgrounds. So I think diversity is important. I'll let everybody else go, and then I'll circle back for more.
Anyone else want to dive in? That one seems eager.
I'll dive in a little bit.
Cool.
I can't go into much detail that Doug talked about, but when I was in college, I noticed that it wasn't a lot of Black people, or women for that matter. And I was shocked. And I didn't know what was, you're a freshman in college, you're 18, 19, you're getting in these classes, especially these higher level, mid to higher level CS classes. And I didn't know what was going on. And I was like, it was just slimming down and slimming down. And, but I think that prepared me for the like when I finally got a job, it was kind of the same thing. First couple of jobs I got, actually Fearless was probably the only place that was different, but all the other jobs were just mirrored my college experience. So I wasn't really shocked once I started working. I don't know what the cause of that is. Like I don't have any like personal experiences like Doug has, as far as like, doing the dial-up thing, but it's definitely something I got used to later in life. I was shocked when I was 18. I'm not so shocked when I was, 28, 29, 30. It's just kind of the way it is. Again, I don't know what the reasoning is behind that, but I'm interested to hear what y'all have to think about it, the rest of the panel.
I mean, I can kind of offer some experience there. I mean, having worked at, a variety of different companies, different industries, et cetera, et cetera. I went to a predominantly white college. Didn't see much diversity there. I was in Iowa, of all places. Left there and went to a company where I was the only African-American person on the team. Everybody else was a white male. I didn't have too much of a problem with it or any problem at all. I didn't feel put out or anything. I think our benefit of diversity there was age, because I was like a new guy right out of school. And the time that I started, there were a couple other young guys that started, and we were all working with older engineers that were very established in the technology, but we were teaching them some of the newer sort of scripting methods and technologies and that type of thing. So that was cool. I left there and went to IBM, which was a very diverse company. And kind of after that, everything, like the diversity increased. So I, fast forward to when I started at Raytheon, and I was hired on by an African-American woman. And that was the first time in my career, I can't remember how many years it was at this point, but the first time that I had been hired on by a woman, number one, and then African-American woman at that. So that kind of, I don't know, say it set the bar, but I was like, okay, cool. This is kind of cool. But I saw a lot of diversity in Raytheon. And since then, yeah, I've just seen a lot of diversity in all the companies that I've worked with, racially, age, experience. Experience, I touched on that earlier, but I think at Disney, we lose a little bit. And this is, I'm not speaking officially for Disney as a whole. And I guess I should lead in saying that, but just my personal experience on the team that I'm hired on, the department that I'm hired in, Disney hires senior people. And I've seen the same thing with Netflix. They only hire senior people. They don't really hire people, new hire right out of school, a couple of years into their career, et cetera, et cetera. So we have a dearth of I hate to say unexperienced people, but junior people. You know what I mean? It's all senior people that are kind of established in their knowledge of technology, still lifelong learners, but we don't have somebody that's just like new and eager, just like thirsty for that knowledge to like just like give me anything and I'll do it. And I think that's good to have on the team because it keeps the senior people sharp as well. Because a younger person, and I hate to say younger because it doesn't have to necessarily be a younger person, but a junior person, y'all know what I'm talking about. That person comes onto the team and they're like, hey, I want to learn what you're doing. I want to be on your level. And so that senior engineer has to stop and be like, whoa, okay, well, let me teach you. Let me show you how I do this. And that keeps both of them sharp. It keeps that young person, they're hungry for knowledge, they're being fed, and that senior engineer, they're having to communicate. We talked about communication earlier. They're having to distill their ideas into a manner that this less experienced person can consume. So I really miss that in my job. We had a like an intern for maybe about 6 or 7 months. It's a total sidebar how she came in to work with us. She was actually on loan to us from another team that didn't really have any work for her, but we're like, hey, we got work, so we'll take her, And so she was a junior DevOps engineer, and she was just like I said, she was just thirsty for the knowledge. She was like, oh man, you guys are using Terraform. Show me how to use Terraform. So we had to break it down. We had to teach her, and I think that was a good experience for everybody on the team. And so that sort of experience diversity is important as well.
I definitely want to co-sign that because I've worked at a lot of places that have had that problem, and then also places that have had the opposite problem where it's, all junior to mid-level people, and you lose that like, hey, this is a bad idea, which I know because I've worked places that have done this thing that's a bad idea. So I definitely can co-sign like that whole experience, like diversity is super important too. Side note, like the best, if you want to practice your communication skills or get better at communicating, like start trying to teach someone something, like great.
Anything from Candace or George? I think it would be interesting to hear from both of you. One, because Candace, you're the only woman here, and George, I don't know your background, but you're not African American. I think we can. So like it would be. I think it would be interesting to hear. I guess just your insight of what you've seen in the industry and your experience in the industry so far around this for both of you.
Yeah, I don't mind going first. So I can definitely relate to Terrence's experience with being in college, and like students are just getting like weeded out. Like freshman year, you see like a lot more Black students, young women, and then just like by senior year, like I was looking around like I'm the only one here. So I've gotten so used to it. It's honestly unfortunate, and I honestly like I always am like trying to figure out like what is the root of this issue, and like how can it be solved? Like I have no idea. It is an issue that like I don't know, like something needs to change, but I'm just not sure like exactly what. But yeah, I've just gotten like so used to it, unfortunately, and it still like blows my mind sometimes at like how much like how many Black women are not in tech, or like Black people in general. Like it still blows my mind, but like I've unfortunately gotten used to it. So yeah.
Anything, George? You don't have to speak on it if you don't want, but yeah, anything from you?
Yeah, I don't have anything from like a I guess a cultural background, or rather I do. As you noted, I'm not African American. That was an astute observation, but a lot of people see me as like some white kid, but I actually come from an immigrant family. My grandfather came over from Greece when he was 16, and that's always kind of stuck with me, having that sort of background and being able to see like the Greek community that I grew up in. And what that's done is contributed more to my lifelong learning that I talked about earlier, because I'm always interested in learning about somebody who has a different background or came from a different place, because it just seems to broaden your horizons more. And I guess that's going back to what Doug and Mike said about having that different level of experience or background or whatever it may be to be able to solve problems and look at, I guess, problems a different way. So,
yeah, and just my 2 cents on this. I've shared it before, but I again, I think we'll wrap up this topic now. But from my point of view, hopefully, I mean, I really don't care if I offend anyone on this, to be honest. But I mean, so yes, I do think diversity. When people talk about diversity, I think it gets mixed up. I think the thing that is valuable is that diversity of thought, specifically in the workplace. I think that's what's most important. How do you get that, though? I do think that means you need a diverse group of people from different backgrounds because, culture is a thing. As much as you like to think you're super unique in your space, that's kind of not true. You're very much like the people you grew up around, the people that you hang out with often, your family, your friends, all that. So like getting diverse people does give you that diverse thought. I've seen it be very valuable in the workplace. I think personally one of the problems is so obviously as a Black man in tech, I want to see way more people who look like me in tech. It's just not, until I got to the place I am now, it's not something that I saw a lot of. And that's been interesting coming from, I've told you all before that I grew up in Prince George's County, the most affluent Black county in the United States. So I was fortunate enough to believe, like to know that I could be something one day, that like the people who were in front of me, the people who raised me, the people who I saw were like, they helped me believe I could be, whatever it was that I wanted to be. But that's not the case for a lot of people for a number of reasons. I think the problem right now is people are expecting tech to solve systemic problems that, like, we're talking about generations and hundreds of years of things that have caused major issues that people are expecting tech to just come in and say hire people. And I think that's actually a disservice. I think that's a disservice to minorities. To be 100% honest, I don't want a company to go and hire 3 unqualified people so that they can fail and everyone at the company can say, oh, look at these people who are not qualified. See what happens when you hire people like them. I think it's problematic. But what I do think is it's honestly it's part of the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now, is I think that the conversation needs to be there so that hopefully companies can start to contributing to starting to change that. I think things can be put in place to change that. I think a lot of things need to happen to change that. It's a tough thing. Again, the deeper you dive into it, I encourage everyone to go kind of learn about the real history of the country. And before you kind of speak about these things, I've had a lot of conversations with people about this. My parents are older. My parents are in their mid to late 60s, but we're talking about families who are we're not even a full generation out of Jim Crow laws. Like, we're not even a full generation out of those things. I think people like to think those things are, far in the past. So there are problems that still arise, but I do think it's tough when you're talking about tech, you're talking about diversity, and you really want to get people in, and you're arguing about letting people in, like, oh, just hire the people. I don't think that's the right answer, to be 100% honest. I don't think just hiring people is the right answer. I think there are ways to do that. So, but I think the conversation's great. I think sometimes the way that we go about it is tough. But Doug, I'll let you wrap it up. I think we should move on to some other topics, just because this could go on all day. But there's a lot of other questions that were asked. But you can definitely throw in that last comment if you want to. Did you want to throw in a comment?
Oh, I mean, I can. I mean, I would definitely co-sign what you said. I do think like this is a uniquely American problem, because it's not that tech companies aren't diverse. They are. It's just that in America, when we talk about diversity, we generally talk about it in terms of black and white. So yeah, tech companies are mostly like, they're majority white, but they still have a large, Asian percentage, whether it be like just in general, like what they lack generally is women and, blacks and Hispanics. Like that's generally what they lack. I will say, like, you're completely right when you say it's a systemic problem, and like, you can't get mad at, tech companies for not solving it, because it is something that goes deeper than just like, hey, we're not hiring, black people, we're not hiring women. But I will also say that like tech companies aren't helping themselves in the way that they go hire, especially like, the really popular startups and like, the Facebooks and the Googles and stuff like that, because what do they do? They say like, hey, we need, junior employees, we need to hire people. Let's go to Harvard, let's go to MIT, let's go to like, Caltech, and then they hire people. And if you're going to, places like that have already like kind of like self-segregated like their population, yeah, you will almost certainly get really qualified candidates, but they're also almost certainly going to look one type of way, right? And like, if you want women, go to Harvey Mudd, right? Harvey Mudd has a lot of, women engineers. If you want like women, go to like, some of the all like, female schools, right? If you want, minorities, go find, some schools that are more diverse to hire from. So I think that is a lot that we can do. And it's something that's worth talking about and to keep like talking about. But
Yeah, definitely. One, I'm glad we were able to have a civil conversation about it. I actually haven't checked the Slack, I mean the chat, so I don't know if it's still civil in there, but hopefully it is. But if not, yeah, I think it's a conversation that's going to continue to happen, that we need to continue to have, because I mean, obviously, it's very important to me. But yeah, just I hope everyone would be open to it, and it's okay to share your feelings. But yeah, listen to your neighbor, be kind to each other about it. It's a tough topic. But yeah, keep the conversation going. But yes, we are Doug Muffin. That's a great question. I know we said that before, that we would talk about where we're located. Yes, I am in the Baltimore area. Grew up right outside of DC. I'm in Baltimore now. Everyone, just throw out your area real quick, the area that you're currently in, because that is important.
Baltimore.
Prince George's County.
Which is a suburb of DC,
Baltimore.
for anyone who doesn't know. Sorry, go ahead, George. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Baltimore too.
Baltimore.
Yeah, I'm in Southern California, right outside of Los Angeles.
SoCal. I hope stay safe over there, man. There's a lot going on out there.
Hey, just like you, I am in my quarantine bubble.
Yep.
I have no problem staying home. I love it.
I feel that way. Like I want to say that, but like right now I'm sitting, like you probably see me squirming. Like my chair is kind of uncomfortable. And today I went out to a remote part of the park and like did some sprints and did 200 air squats for time. So like now my whole body hurts and I'm uncomfortable, and like it would just be better to be outside of this location right now. But it feels like I want to be home. Like I feel that way. If I had to go to work, I know that I would want to be home. So I guess that's the difference. They told me to come in.
Quarantine in SoCal must suck because it's always like beautiful outside.
Yeah, be outside for sure.
Like I had one day of like beautiful here and was like crying.
It was 80 degrees 2 days ago, and it was like 30 today, which kind of sucks. But that's that East Coast Maryland weather. So, all right, let's a few more questions. I think the only person who hasn't told us about their background is Terrence. But we'll go into one question first, and then you'll tell us about your background. So we've kind of. So does anyone have any? This comes from SV Dennis 17. Does anyone have any tips or tricks for technical interviews? I know. They say I know my stuff, but it's easy to freeze up a bit and forget simple things. This is a good one. We're doing 2 interviewing sessions this week. So Monday and Tuesday, we're doing kind of how to approach software interviews and how to approach DevOps interviews. So check those out. But anyone got any advice for that?
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick. And I actually shared this in the chat, a link to a class that I did for LinkedIn Learning, specifically on DevOps interviewing. So I would say if you have access to LinkedIn Learning, which you can get through most cities have access through their public libraries. There's a ton of information in there on interviewing. And I'll say this before I go into answers, is that watch interview tips from other industries, because there's how to nail your coding interview, how to nail your Python interview, how to nail your Java interview. Watch those too, because they have skills that you can pick up outside of Java that will apply to your interviewing toolkit, for lack of a better term. But the kind of the information that we shared in chat was practice. The more that you can practice interviewing, I mean, whether it's real interviewing where you're interviewing for a job, or just like interviewing with a friend or a peer or a mentor or something like that. Basically, you need to interview to the point where you're sick and tired of interviewing. Like you would rather not be interviewing. Once you get to that point, you're good, because you're going to walk into an interview with some confidence to be able to say like, yeah, I can answer whatever question you got. Let's get started and do this interview. So I would just say, along with a lot of other skills that you need to sort of prepare, practice.
I would also say, just to say what Mike said, practice, obviously. But also, I remember when I was in college, and I think it was CGI came to our college and did some interviews, and then they gave us, they flew us out to Virginia, and then we did an interview there. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I got offered the job. And I don't think of course, the technical stuff is important, but I think if you're just confident in yourself and show that you have an ability to learn things and you have the right attitude. I had a really good attitude because I was just naive. I just thought I could do anything. And I think that shined through, and they liked me, and they gave me the job. And actually, they gave me a whiteboard test, and I failed it. I couldn't even do the whiteboard test. I didn't know what I was so just dumb. But I think having confidence in yourself, and even if you don't know an answer to something, just be honest about it. Don't try to tap dance around it. Don't try to lie. Just, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn. Be very honest. A lot of times I think they just want to find somebody that they're willing to work with, and who they'll bring on their team. And if you're a good team fit, we don't talk about team fit enough. Just be yourself, be confident, be honest about the things that you don't know, and then come through on the things that you do know. And just, practice like Mike said, just keep practicing and practicing. But I think the soft skills are just as important as the tech skills, at least in my experience.
I think people definitely underestimate like the being likable aspect of interviewing. Like if you were a likable person, like as a person interviewing you, I'm almost always going to give you more leeway just because I like you, and because I like you, I want to see you succeed. I would also say, like, in terms of like interviewing, obviously like practice, is important. You have to know your technical stuff. But I would say the other big thing is that, like, to a degree, you can control where the interview goes. And so up until you get to like, a hardcore coding, write this on like the board, like you can always like, spitball and like, just like make it a collaborative effort and like, just like kind of control a conversation in a way that like plays to their strengths and like away from your weaknesses. And I think that's something that takes practice, but like that, I mean, that's one of the things why we say practice, because it's worth like practicing those skills and those abilities. And like, hey, someone asked me a question where like, I don't really know, but how do I shift it towards a subject that I do know better? Or like, turn this thing that like I don't know all that much about and like, kind of take some things I do know and extrapolate and then like kind of like wing it, I guess. But I mean, it's definitely a skill, but it's, it's something that's worth thinking about when you're interviewing.
Does anyone have any really wild interview, like bad interview stories? Because I already told you guys, I shut the laptop. I did so bad on a video interview that I shut the laptop while I was like mid sentence, like, yeah, I know all about that, and I got up and I went to McDonald's or something. Does anyone else have any any one of those? Ooh, first outages, I like those too. We'll ask that in a little bit, but anyone have any of those?
Because they Terrence, you want to go first, bro? You look passionate about this one, man.
No, I really don't have any bad ones. I mean, there was one, you walk in there and they put something on the board and you just can't solve it. You can't solve it. And that kind of kills the interview. But I'm curious about the laptop close. Did you like slow close it? Like, did you like do your face like that?
I mean, it was kind of quick. I mean, because like I just had to get a good handle on this. Like, I had to get I didn't want him to know I was reaching for I got to like slowly like reach around the bag, and then it was swift, but not swift enough to break the laptop. But don't do that. That was young, dumb Aaron. That was like fresh. That was like 22-year-old
Right.
Aaron. But yeah, it wasn't good.
I
He called me back though.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't answer. Bad. It was really so scary.
It's so bad.
I don't have any of me being embarrassed in an interview, but I got secondhand embarrassment from an interview I conducted because the dude came in and like within the first 5 minutes insulted like me and the other person who were there, who was like, conducting the interview, and then did his problem in the wrong language. That's
excellent. I love that.
I also think it was incorrect in the wrong language, if I recall correctly. Like,
so yeah, don't. That's the first good interviewing tip is like, don't insult anyone in the room. Like, there's just it's probably in your best interest to not do that.
Yeah, and don't insult people outside of the room either. So if you think you're like, you're coming in, you have to deal with a security guard or secretary or some type of, somebody who's receiving you and they're kind of ushering you. Yeah, be respectful to them as well, because you don't know whose opinion they're going to ask of you after the interview. And if that person says, hey, man, that person was, then that could get back to the hiring manager and it's all bad.
Facts.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I like the question about Thug Muffin, like heading straight from the bad interview story. What about does anyone have any good first outage stories, or if you can't remember your first outage, or your first outage isn't exciting, first outage or like craziest biggest outage that you've kind of been a part of?
There was I forget what the exact question was. I think earlier it was like, what are you most afraid of for DevOps or whatever? And man, even to this day, after all these years, I cannot stand databases.
Oh,
I cannot stand
yes.
databases.
Yes. That was my first
I can't
outage.
stand, because yeah, exactly. I mean, I can't really remember like my first big outage. I can remember some along the way, but I'll give you a recent one, and it ties into this fear of databases that I have, because it's data. You know, if that data is gone, eh. You know, if it's a server, you can rebuild a server. If it's code, you can redeploy it. If it's data and you don't have it anymore, you know, go home. But okay, so we use Terraform to manage our resources, and I was actually decommissioning 2 different environments, you know, for an application, and 2 separate Terraform states. Turned out that I had 3 terminals open, and so I had 2 terminals that were in the actual stuff that I was decommissioning, and 1 terminal that somehow got into the directory where I was managing the Terraform state for a database for an application. So I'm like, Terraform destroy. Yes. Turned out I was in that database environment, and I was like, you know, I like to watch the output, because and this is total sidebar, but one of the reasons that I love being, you know, an system administrator working with computers is I like to see the screen scroll. You know, I don't know why, but that just
The
like
Matrix.
it thrills me. Yeah, it's like the computer is doing something, you know. So I like to watch the output. I'm watching the Terraform output, and it's like destroying database. And I'm like, there's no database in this environment that I'm destroying, you know. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm in the wrong place, and I just did a destroy on this database environment. But I'm like, oh, hey, no problem. Let's see if there's a backup there. There was no backup.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
hardcore.
So it was all bad, but I will say there was no backup, and so I couldn't restore. Well, fortunately, I mean, to get straight and fast to the end, fortunately, it was a development environment. This was not a production environment. So you know, it was not like, oh man, you know, production services are going down. However, there were developers that were actively working in that environment, and so they were going to be kind of hosed, you know, because their environment is now offline. The first thing that you want to do when you get that terrible outage, that terrible, you know, I did something stupid situation, just own it. Just like, you know, whoever you got to tell that this bad thing has happened, don't hesitate. Tell them immediately, right away. So even while Terraform was still destroying this database, I went to our Slack channel and I was like, hey devs, I hate to tell you this, but your development environment is going to be offline over the weekend, because this was a Friday of all days. And I was like, hey guys, your development environment is going to be offline. Just want to let you know that I did a snafu. I deleted the database for this environment. By that time, I had already put a ticket into our DBA to say, hey, I'm going to recreate this environment, and as soon as you get a chance, I'm going to need you to dump the data from QA and restore it to dev. You don't have to do it today. You don't have to do it over the weekend, but I just want to give you a heads up. So, I mean, the benefit there is like I already had a plan in motion to get this thing back online. So I went to the devs. I was like, hey, your environment's offline. It's not going to be available, but I'm already working to get this thing restored. And they were like, yeah, okay, cool. You know, so I would say own it, and then like put your plan in action, or communicate your plan to resolve whatever this error is, no matter how drastic or, you know, catastrophic that problem may be.
So I've never experienced anything like that, and that's like one of my biggest fears. Yes, yet. That's like one of my biggest fears. It gives me so much anxiety. But I guess before like I do anything that I think is like drastic, I always think to myself like, okay, do you know how to like undo what you just did before you do it? So like that to me is like a important like piece that I have to think through before I actually do something.
I actually feel bad, Candace, because like I feel like I'll be giving you bad insight because you were like, well, should we do this? I'm like, it'll be fine. Like it's gonna be okay. Just because I've been through a number of those things. So like, don't be like me. Like definitely keep that fear. It'll keep you from making huge mistakes.
Artificially create learning opportunities for you by making you fuck up.
Yes,
Fine, do that.
It's fine. It's just okay. Like it'll be okay.
Do you think it's a definite like when as opposed to if it'll happen? Because I feel like it's gonna happen for sure.
Yeah, like it is certainly a part of. It's a part of all of it. It's definitely a win.
Yeah, you're gonna delete something that you need.
Yep.
Yeah, and you could just do like crazy backups and everything. I mean, you're only as good as your last restore when it comes to backups.
Yep.
So if you haven't restored it, if you don't know the backup is there, number one, and you haven't restored it, number two, it's a crapshoot.
You got to test your backups.
Exactly.
You should test your backups. You don't have to do backups. You don't have to do anything.
It just happened like last year at some company. Like they had some outage, and so they had to like restore from the backups, but their backups didn't work because they had never tested them.
Exactly.
Ooh. Maybe we should start testing our backups.
I would say my favorite outage was at Under Armour. So you don't know stress until you're like on call for Black Friday at an e-commerce company. Like Michael was talking about that earlier. Like that is crazy. But like our main like e-commerce website has a memory leak in it. We did not know at the time it had a memory leak in it, but because we had like continuous deployment, continuous integration, like we merged to prod like deploy to prod like probably like 15, 20 times a day, like at minimum. But like during like Black Friday, like a month out, we go into a code freeze, and during code freeze, like nothing can go out. So there's still like some things that go out like every once in a while, but they're all like there's much fewer. So what we ended up realizing is that there was like basically a memory leak that was causing like the pod to run out of like memory, out of resources, and then it was like basically shutting down the entire Kubernetes cluster because like it would just keep like pulling memory, and then it wasn't scaling up fast enough. So like we couldn't figure out in time where to like how to fix the memory leak, because you have to go do a lot of work to figure out where a memory leak is on a front end application. Because by the way, this memory leak is like in React. So what we did is we set a cron job up, and that literally just every 24 hours like restarted the pod.
We've all been there
like that for a while.
Like yeah.
That was a quick Black Friday fix, man.
Hey, no, I get it.
That's a Band-Aid for sure.
A Band-Aid, but that turns into it just heals. It just
Band-Aid that was heals. It's just like a part of the thing now.
Yep. It's a feature.
Wow, I got a really crazy outage story, but I might hold it for later. I don't think we have time. Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know what to think because we have a whole like 17 minutes. How long is your story about to be? It's all on you. It's all on how long you tell it.
I'll do it pretty quick. So I was working.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. All right, go for it. Go ahead.
2 minutes. Okay, I was working at Department of Justice. That's when I was going to DC. So I was commuting to DC, and I was working there, and everything was good. And I was working on this application for agents, right? FBI agents, and it was called UCO, Undercover Operations. It was a very cool project. It was in C#. They chose Silverlight. I was like, all right, whatever. This was made before I got there. And we did a push, and they had updated some DLL files on our servers in Virginia. And I didn't know that they did that before. So I just do my, we do our regular process for deploying. And I do my push. And we started getting calls from agents telling us they couldn't save their application. So they would go all the way through. And this was an application to replace their paper process. So, whenever an FBI agent goes and starts a new criminal case, they have to get signatures, have to write down a bunch of stuff and all those things. And we were trying to automate that process. And we did a really good job at it. And we got it automated. And they would get so frustrated, it'd go all the way through the application and it would just hang. And so none of that information saved. So this went on for like 4 or 5 days to the point where they brought me in and they were like, so we thinking about reverting back, and we had no kind of backup in place for database, for application. Like we had nothing. There was no. It was just kind of a wild wild west kind of shop where we just like push code up. We barely had code reviews. We didn't have anything, and I knew that was going to cause a lot of more problems. And the big problem with the project was it was high visibility. I had like all kind of like agents like really mad at me, and then like coworkers were like, "Terrence, you're making the country less safe every day. This bug is here," and they were just giving it to me, bro. So it was really bad. But I eventually found the bug, and it wasn't even our code. That patch that they did, that update that they did the weekend before, they missed a prod environment for our 32-bit application. They made it for all 64-bit applications, but they didn't do it for the 32-bit application. So I don't know what happened. So eventually I found this file that was just a different size DLL. I told our system infrastructure guys, they applied the patch and everything started working. The saves went on and we were really excited, but it was like 6 days, man. It was crazy.
Oof.
It was bad, but it was all right.
George, you got any interesting outages?
I have a recent one, so it's still a little fresh, so I won't talk about it right now. Yeah.
That's fair. Definitely fair. Okay. So, I think one thing we've talked a lot about experiences and kind of day-to-day stuff, things that have happened to us. Real quick, I just want everyone to kind of run down some, let's talk tech a little bit, like just run down some technologies, like write down the technologies that you touch kind of on the daily basis in your job, in your current role, where you are right now. Just kind of just reel off some of the tech that you touch a lot per day. Just anyone start, and we can just go around.
Oh, what we doing?
What?
Yeah, I'll
Bro, Terrence, were you not listening to any of that?
Repeat the question.
No. Come on, man. Look, just reel off. I just want everyone to just reel off the different tech that you touch every day in your current role or in your last role or whatever, your most recent role. Just kind of reel it off, and say what your job title is, because I think that's important.
Yeah, so I'm a systems reliability engineer. And again, that comes with basically deploying code to systems and managing the systems throughout their entire lifecycle deployment, maintenance and decommissioning. Probably the number one piece of tech that I touch every day is AWS. That's where all of our resources run. Probably down the line from that is Terraform, because we manage those resources using Terraform, which is a tool for infrastructure as code. Probably down the line from that is GitLab. GitLab is our Git server, and we're starting to do some CI with that. But if I was to go down the next step, I would say Jenkins, because I'm coming to a team or working with a team, the developers, they use Jenkins for their CI/CD. And then down the line from that is scripting tools like Bash, Python. Most of the applications that I support are written in Ruby, so I deal with Capistrano, which is a Ruby-based deployment application. I'm not going to go into desktop setup or the tech that I work with there, but if I did, I would say I use them as my editor.
Yeah.
Doug shaking his head. I'll stop there.
George?
Yeah, so my title at my current company is solutions engineer, and that basically means I handle everything for our data extraction and loading. On a day-to-day basis, I'm touching a lot of Ruby, hands-on in the code, some of our Sidekick queue, Circle CI for continuous integration, GitHub for version control. I have to log into GCP sometimes and fix some pods, and I think that's it, but I'm not sure.
Candace?
Yeah, so AWS, we use Nginx, GitHub, Docker, Circle CI. Those are the main ones coming to me right now.
Kwame?
Also, I'm a DevOps engineer.
Oh yeah. Good one. Thanks. I forgot that fast. Kwame?
Technically, I'm a finance data engineer. I deal with GitHub for version control, Docker. We actually use, instead of like scripting, we use this platform called Airflow, which is like Python, kind of a framework. We've had to kind of move away from AWS as a cloud infrastructure just because we want to not be vendor locked in. So we've been playing around with Snowflake, GCP as well. And then Jenkins, and then Flyway as ways to kind of handle versions for databases and orchestration. And then a lot of our text editors, everybody's kind of using VS Code more than anything.
Doug? Cool. Thank you, Kwame.
So my title is software engineering manager. So most of my day is spent in meetings or in Jira. But when I do touch code, we're Ruby on the back end, like server-side rendered React on the front end with Next.js. I do more front end stuff than I do back end because I don't know Ruby all that great. But I do a lot of our DevOps stuff as like end user stuff. So we have a DevOps team that like manages our Kubernetes cluster, but I do a lot of stuff as far as like writing Docker files to deploy new applications. We like do our deployments through CodeShip. So I'll do some stuff with that as far as getting like different stuff deployed. Git is what we use for like source control and PRs.
My bad. Sorry. Up. Keep going. My bad.
I think that's really it. Like, I mean, Kubernetes, there's a lot of homegrown tooling. Oh, and Docker Compose, we use that heavily as well.
Terrence.
Well, I don't do it anymore, but used to obviously Golang on the Fire compliant API. I used to make stand for BCDA, which is Beneficiary Claims Data API. So we automated the process of sending claims data to Medicare and Medicaid recipients. That was all Golang for that API. And the idea is for hospitals, staff, IT staff at these hospitals to actually interact with our API and get the information a lot faster than, I think it's at least a month that they have to wait for the paper files to get dropped in an inbox. So if they use our API, they can get in like a week, which is a lot better for their patients. So that was all Golang. A lot of unit testing with the Golang testing framework, just out of the box. Every new function we had to write, every new function we wrote had to be supported with a test function. So that didn't slow things down, but you weren't getting those tickets done as fast as you thought you were, because you had to write tests for it. And we used a lot of Docker, and that's kind of where I started dipping my toes into like DevOps a little bit, learning Docker a little bit. I still don't know much, but I definitely see the value of Docker. And as far as the DevOps side, I know we were using like Ansible, I think, and Terraform.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure y'all were using Ansible.
I don't know what else they were doing over there, but Golang on the software side.
Yeah, I mean, me and Candace were on the same project, so she basically gave you the stuff. But maybe I'll try to run down those major topics we do from the roadmap that we've been working off of in the DevOps bootcamp. Sorry, my dog is like, she's making me love on her right now, so that's the only reason I'm all like moved far back from the mic. But we do use GitHub for version control. We use AWS for our cloud provider. We use a number of services in there. We do use Docker. We use ECS as our orchestrator. So we're not using Kubernetes. We're using Amazon's ECS as our container orchestrator. We are using the application that we support is a Node React application. So we do a lot of serverless stuff. Everything isn't containerized. It's a hybrid of containers and serverless functions. So we write a lot of Node. Yeah, I think you all know that my text editor of choice is in fact Vim. I do use VS Code when I need to do some things that I don't yet know how to do in Vim, but sometimes when I need to like move a lot of data or something. But yeah, Vim. I use Vim. I think I'm the only person on the team who works off of a non-Mac. Actually, I work off of a Mac now. They bought us new computers, so now I'm on a Mac. I did have a Linux box that I was working off of. But yeah, that's just kind of. Oh, I think I said Circle CI already for our CI pipeline. We were using Travis for a while. We were using Jenkins first. Moved from Jenkins to Travis. Couldn't use Travis because Travis is not headquartered in the United States, and we do work for the government. We're government contractors, so we had to switch to Circle CI, which has been pretty great. I actually really like Circle. And I think yep.
Have you used the Git one, like the Git CI?
Yes. So Terrence has watched me struggle. First off, Terrence didn't tell you his most recent outage story, which was him immediately breaking the Mastermind website on his first push. But we'll talk about that later. Yes, I've used GitHub Actions. GitHub Actions seems cool. It seems cool. I think it is cool. I just don't know what I'm doing. And I had a very simple Hugo build process, which I was not able to get set up successfully. One big feature that GitHub Actions does not have, that Circle has, is that if your build fails, you can log in to that container. You can SSH into that container and find out and just like mess around and see what's going on inside of there. GitHub Actions does not have that, or at least I could not find a feature like that. So you're kind of just shooting in the dark. Like a build fails, it gives you some output, and you're like, man, like I think everything's right, but it's just not. So I don't have a way to see I don't have any observability or visibility into what's going on. So I kind of abandoned it. But it seems cool. I want to give it another go. I would like to keep everything kind of in-house to GitHub for my personal things. We are doing a whole project all next week, so we'll probably go with GitHub Actions for that and learn it, to be honest. But yeah,
we're doing that.
Yeah, and
yeah.
I'm about to say I'm interjecting here a little bit, Aaron. I actually did a class for LinkedIn Learning on GitHub Actions.
Oh well, there we go. Perfect plug. Paste that link because we need it.
Yeah, so I'll put it in there. But and I mean, as far as like the problem that you were having where you could do that with Circle CI and not with GitHub Actions. I actually haven't done this with Actions yet, but they do allow for self-hosted runners. So basically, where the Docker container that's running your job runs, locally, you can have your own server that's running the job, and that gives you much more access to what's going on there.
This is why you find experts. This is great.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll give you the same sort of visibility, like you'll be able to see logs and processes and all that kind of stuff. But I do know that they do allow self-hosted runners if you want to do that for yours.
That is excellent. Is that in your course?
That is not in the course. So, I mean, I guess heads up, you guys are the first to know, but I am working on a part 2 to that course. And that's going to be much more advanced topics like self-hosted runners, matrix builds, using the API, and some other stuff that I haven't even really thought of yet. But
I need that because I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, so but that won't be that probably won't be out until late summer at the earliest, if not even probably like the fall of this year. But yeah, I will post the link to the course that's out right now into the chat. Just give me a second.
Perfect. Cool. All right, so we're coming up. I want to be very respectful of everyone's time. We're coming up on the end. We have a final 2 minutes here. But is there anything that you would all like to share to kind of wrap things up? Like, is there anything you would like to share with the people watching, people who are trying to get into tech, whatever? Is there any advice, any cool saying that you think would get people motivated? Is there anything you can provide for the people as we exit?
Really hyped that up.
I know I hyped it up. I have nothing. I'm putting it on you because I don't have anything.
I ain't got nothing. After that, I got nothing.
I got a little something.
Yeah.
So back to the person who was asking about technical interviews, it sounded like you were a bit nervous going into it, and that was making you forget what you knew. I'm a highly anxious person, if you can tell by me talking on the camera. And when I do get anxious, what I've been doing is I've been practicing a lot of breathing. But another thing I've been trying to practice is stoicism, and that may help you going into meetings. If you need a resource, there's a guy named Ryan Holiday. He's great on that. So
yes,
that is my non-technical bit.
What's that book? Silence is the Key?
Stillness is the key. Yeah.
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 We're close, but no cigar.
Yeah, quality. So
I'll check that out. Sounds good. I have no problem being still, so
I do a
I'll
little
check it
bit.
out. Yeah. Anyone? I mean, I always have tidbits of advice. I don't know if it's good advice, but I always have some tidbits of advice. Well,
Yeah, I mean,
go
I
ahead,
would
Michael.
just say, keep learning. If you're just starting out, and you say, hey, I just got this boot camp cert, I just got this degree, and I'm looking for a job, and once I get into this job, I'll be good. No, you won't. Keep learning. Even like with me, like I think, if not everybody, a lot of folks here on the panel said that they're lifelong learners. If you're in IT, that's just a given, because IT is going to keep advancing. It's going to keep changing. And if you don't keep learning, you will become obsolete and you'll be left, to the side. So just be prepared to keep learning.
I'll say something too. My best advice is like, I would say, I'm like, clarify, like, be comfortable with like failure. And not to say that you're going to fail, but like, this shit is hard. And you're going to like have challenges, and you have to just be comfortable with the fact that you're going to run into things that are hard and difficult and is going to challenge you. And that occasionally like something's not going to work, and you just have to be persistent and keep going forward. And so that's what I mean by that. It's a long process. And even once you get there, like, it can still be a long process, because like you don't want to like achieve your goal and then just like stay there. You want to keep pushing. But yeah, just get comfortable with like, the fact that this is challenging, and that engineering in general is a lot of hitting your head against a table until the table breaks and the thing works.
Yes.
I was going to add, if you're just like starting to make your way into like the tech industry, everybody's way of getting there is different. Going to school worked best for me because I'm not disciplined enough to like find the resources and just like learn all these things like on my own. Like going to school like really helped me with that. So everybody's journey is different. Like, you don't have to have a degree to get into the industry. So that's my advice.
I definitely piggyback off those comments. I'm curious, on this panel right now, how many of us actually have CS degrees or engineering degrees?
Yeah, I got a BS MS in computer engineering, so 2 degrees that way.
Okay. I'm just curious. I don't think it's a requirement.
It's not.
It's not. It's definitely not. I love everyone's advice was amazing. I think the one thing I would say, kind of advice I would give people trying to get in the industry, get farther in the industry, is tech. All industries are, when you're trying to do something like this, we kind of know, you know the path. You say you don't know what to learn next. That's true, but I think people know how to find those things out. What people are afraid of is, putting in energy into a place that is not quite the right place to get them there the quickest. And I think kind of learning something new, picking up a new skill set, it really is like weight loss. So, everyone knows how to lose weight. Everyone's like, I can't lose this weight. You know how to lose weight if you eat well. You eat less calories than you burn per day. You eat right, you exercise. You'll for the most part, there are obviously some caveats in there, medical reasons, stuff why you wouldn't, but you'll probably lose weight. I think learning is like that, but with the added benefit of you can start to lose weight, but you can regress and you can start eating again and you can gain it all back. I think what's interesting about learning and your path and learning is that you can go through the process, you start picking things up, and it just kind of piles on. And yeah, sure, you might get to times when you aren't moving as fast as you were. There's times you might get stagnant, but you don't really put on that weight. As long as you kind of keep it relatively consistent, you don't really put that weight back on. You make progress towards that end goal. It just may take you longer to get there. And I think people don't, like, throughout that process, the way we know we're making progress when we're losing weight is you get on that scale and you know exactly where you are. We don't take any litmus tests, or we don't have a good way of finding out what our progress is and really knowing what our progress is. So I say all that to say, as you're picking up these things, take some time to reflect often on how much you've picked up, on how much you've learned. Write the stuff down, talk to someone, start having conversations. And I think you would be surprised at how much you've picked up over just trying to learn. If you're going through a topic and you're really having trouble over you've been learning it for 2 weeks, go have a conversation with someone about what you're struggling with, and I bet you'll reel off all the things you did learn so that you can talk about so that you can express to them the thing that you're having trouble learning. But I don't know, just find a way to have that guide, to know where you are kind of along the path, reflect on it. I think it'll help. I think it'll help a lot. At least it helps me just to actually be able to see that progress. But yeah, that's the last bit of advice that I have. So, one, I want to thank everyone for joining us. I really appreciate everyone on the panel. Some of the people here are OGs. They were here on the last panel. I'm glad that they're back, because now you can see kind of their growth. Things have changed, obviously, with the people who were here last time. You'll probably see some familiar faces on the next panel that's on Wednesday. If you're interested and you want to come with more questions, we'll probably have more people on the Wednesday panel, which means I'm going to have to be a little more strict about... not strict, it's going to be more structured than it is today, to kind of get through all the questions and stuff on Wednesday. But definitely come through, ask the questions, get to know the people around us. But thank you very much, everyone on the panel. I'll definitely, last time I bought everyone Chick-fil-A. Unfortunately, I can't buy you Chick-fil-A right now, and I'm not going to order it to your homes because that DoorDash fee is going to hit me on the head. But I promise you all, as soon as the time presents itself, I'll definitely make it up to everyone and show my appreciation. So don't hold me to it. Don't let me forget about it.
The delivery
Yeah,
fee.
plus Chick-fil-A is closed on Sunday.
That's true. That's true. We didn't do it on Sunday last time. We were doing just Monday and Wednesdays. It is open tomorrow, but I will. We'll figure it out. Maybe I'll order Chick-fil-A for everyone, but to my house, and then I'll eat it all. How about that?
You could also deliver it personally.
No, I'm. You guys aren't gonna get me sick at all. But dope. It's 10 o'clock. Thank you everyone for sliding through. I hope you got something out of this. Again, we're doing. Life's crazy right now. I hope everyone is finding some comfort in diving into the things that hopefully will make you better on the other side of this. Also, just want to throw it out there. We are doing, starting tomorrow, Terrence and I, and honestly, whoever kind of ends up hopping on and participating, we are going to be doing something called Operation Quarantine. We're going to be practicing Agile software development. We're basically going to be doing a speed run for Agile software development project from Monday to Friday. That is up on GitHub. If you go to mastermind.io/quarantine, it'll take you to a GitHub page with a README about what we're going to be doing. But if you wanted to ever learn about what the process is like, kind of taking an application from idea to product, kind of what it's like in a delivery environment, the processes that happen. We're going to be creating user stories, learning about Agile Scrum, practicing. We're going to be doing 2 stand-ups a day, not just daily. We're going to do 2 stand-ups a day, one before lunch, one in the morning, one after lunch, just to see the practice, so you can see it a number of times. We'll be doing ceremonies, Scrum ceremonies and stuff as well, but we're just gonna have fun. We are gonna be teaching, but we are also going to be just kind of be messing around and building and learning. You're gonna watch us struggle through I have no idea about GitHub Actions. Let's learn. Let's take an hour to figure out what the heck is going on. So we might be watching your video tomorrow, Michael, for sure. So if you're interested in that, it starts tomorrow. We're gonna be on all day, 9 to 5, maybe more 10 to 4:30, maybe 4.
Let's be realistic.
Let's be realistic here. But we'll be on sometime in the morning, and we're just gonna be around. Put it on the side. Listen to it. You'll pick up some things. You don't got to stay around for all of it, but just we'll be here if you want to participate. There'll be plenty of opportunities for everyone to participate. This will be an open source project, so it'll be something that everyone can contribute to, even while we're building it next week. And more information about that will be tomorrow. This does not overlap with any of the final weeks for the bootcamp stuff, so those still will go off as well. So we're going to be doing tomorrow, we're going to be doing Python, how to tackle the software interview, how to tackle a software technical interview. On Tuesday, we'll be diving into how to tackle a DevOps technical interview. And on Wednesday, we'll be doing that Python engineering panel. So that was a lot of information, a lot of stuff coming up. Everyone stay safe out here. Be kind to others. Seriously, help out where you can. People are struggling right now. So just be kind. and I'll see you all later. And maybe we should not we got to raid somebody tonight. We have to. There's a lot of people on here. We got to make someone's night. Maybe we'll raid someone a little bit small. Does anyone have any ideas on who we can head over to? Is the Prime again on? Oh, the Prime again is on. It feels like we have to go to the Prime again just because I find his stuff so interesting. Yeah, let's do it. Let's head over to the Prime again. Anyone who doesn't know what raiding is, we're all just going to another channel, so it's cool. It's a cool social thing. So say hi. He's super smart. For anyone who doesn't know who he is, like, and the stuff he works on is super exciting. You learn a lot, especially if you want to learn Vim. Head on over. Just follow us along, and you can watch. But if not, have a good night. Thank you, everybody. And I always have trouble typing in the Prime again, so you guys are going to be waiting for a while until I type it in right. Did it wrong again. Hold on. Raid it's always forget the I do this every time. Prime Agen. I'm never gonna figure that out. All right, we're heading over in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Wait, I'm counting too slow. It's on 1 now. Bye. See y'all later.
Yeah.